Welcome back to the JCPod, partner with Stare Down Sports. Stare down greatness. And man, does it make me sad to look at this background knowing we are so far away from football. Once February turns, I think we're going to have to change it. I think we'll sit in this until the end of February, kind of enjoy, kind of reminiscing a little bit since football really was not too far away. But the second it hits March and all, I think we might need to change it. But that's a discussion for a week or two from now. We're back after a little bit of... Technically, it's been a week since I've been here. Didn't do a Tuesday show. Back today, just talk some NFL news, and honestly, not too much is happening. The franchise tag period just kind of opened, so we're slowly starting that. We're still a few weeks away from the combine, a few weeks away from the draft, so we're still kind of in just that little lull after the Super Bowl where we're finally getting, the ball's starting to roll a little bit into the offseason. We're getting some news about little movements here and there, just a bunch of stuff like that. So we'll hop into it today. We're pretty much just going to go over some NFL news and everything. I know I said I was going to talk NFL futures and basically go over my futures that I gave out, how the record went, all that fun jazz. But I think we're going to do that next week. I think it'll be a perfect way to end February. Just as a whole, get the final thoughts of the season. And plus, won't lie to you, still need to tally a few of them up. I haven't put checks or X's on if they won or lost or not. So I got to go through a couple more and finish those out. And then, like I said, I think it'd be the perfect way to end February, and then the second March hits, it's like, all right, let's begin the offseason. So, like I said, today, NFL news. Let's hop right into it. First thing we're going to talk about, something not too major, but something to keep an eye on. The Panthers are going to hire Darrell Bevell as their new associate head coach and offensive specialist. Dave Canales will still continue to call the plays, but I'm assuming that basically, so the fact he's getting the offensive specialist and an associate head coach, pretty much, I'm assuming that means he's basically a second-hand man. They worked together for 7 seasons in Seattle under Pete Carroll, so yeah. He's going to basically work along Canales and the offensive coordinator, Brad Idzik. I think the Panthers were a little bit early. I said they were going to be decent. I didn't think they were going to be as good as they were last year, so they're a team that's on the up and up, so potentially is this the move that's going to push them over the edge? I mean, they were really close to beating the Rams in that playoff game. So they're potentially just two to 4 moves away from hey, is this a Super Bowl team? It's the offseason now. We can start thinking like that. No, I think it'll be a decent move for the Panthers, though. But I really think they got their head coach and GM right finally. And you can kind of tell because they've kept the same head coach, same GM now for a couple years. You're starting to see the progress happen and everything, and that's awesome for the Panthers because it really looked like the Panthers were going to be one of those teams that's like, are they never going to win again? It truly looked like they might end up in purgatory, but they might just be escaping it. Dolphins are hiring Kevin Patullo as the pass game coordinator. I don't think this... Dolphins are in a full rebuild, pretty much, so you can't really even evaluate this move on its own because I don't think there's going to be much expectations for the Dolphins next year. I mean, as of right now, Quinn Ewers is their starting quarterback, I believe, and I don't know if they're going to draft somebody or not, but the draft isn't there ain't a lot of quarterbacks falling off trees in this year's draft, so maybe they go veteran or maybe they'll go with Ewers, but I don't think too many people are expecting the Dolphins to be world beaters this year, but yeah, I don't know how to evaluate this move, especially because of just how weird the Eagles' offense was last year. Derek Carr said he'd unretire for a Super Bowl contender. I think maybe after having the year off, because it really, when you watched him throw... Because before he retired, when you watched some clips of him, after his surgery, he did not look like he was fully healthy. He's going to be ready to play next year. Now I think that... I guess we'll just read his quote before I get my full thoughts. Would I do it? Yes. Would I do it for anybody? Absolutely not. He said, I'd have to be healthy, and I'd want a chance to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, that's a tough thing to find. But he's 34 years old. That's basically just him if he would come out of retirement. But, I mean, let's be honest. We can maybe see it. If the team needs a quarterback for a couple weeks or something, it's like, hey, Derek, can you... I mean, we just saw with Phillip Rivers last year. Literally the Phillip Rivers scenario, basically, where it's like, hey, we need you for a couple weeks. Do you think you'd be able to get the job done? I mean, that's something we could see. But, I mean, he really looked like he was really injured at the end of... when he retired, it really looked like his... I think it was shoulder, elbow? Whichever one it was, it looked like it was really jacked up. And, I mean, he's not a horrible quarterback, honestly. He's probably better than a couple guys who are starting right now. But every year that you get removed from the NFL, it's one of those things where it's like, can he come back? Can he come back? I mean, we saw it, like I said, we saw with Phillip Rivers, but Phillip Rivers is one of the all-time greats. Is Derek Carr one of the all-time greats? It's probably up for debate, but like I said, there are some teams that, there's some issues that really, or sorry, not issues. There's some quarterbacks that are not the best. Like, he probably could have played over J.J. McCarthy this year, but rotator cuff surgery, I'm pretty sure is what he had. And then, yeah, shoulders are tough, so we'll have to see. That's something to keep an eye on as the season goes on. If it happens this year again, this upcoming year again, where quarterbacks get injured and all that, maybe it's something to keep an eye on. Like, hey, are we going to see Derek Carr? If I had to guess, probably not, but at this point, we've seen crazy things happen. I mean, we saw Phillip Rivers come back this year, and he almost beat the Seahawks in Seattle. He was, what was that, 25-ish seconds away, and a pretty much midfield field goal kick away from beating the Super Bowl champs. So, hey. Stephon Diggs is pleading not guilty to the charges he's alleged of, and with the chef and everything. This was the thing that we talked about this weeks and weeks ago. It got pushed basically to like, hey, he can play in the playoff runs, and then everything will be dealt with in the offseason. So now it's just kind of waiting to see what's going to come of the case, pretty much, and will he be coming back to the Patriots? Those are the two, I guess, big storylines of Stephon Diggs. Is he coming back to the Patriots, or where is he going, and what is going to happen with this court case and everything? The NFL went to grievance against the Players Union, banning the team report cards. I'll admit, I'm not a big fan of this. But at the same time, I don't really have too much say in it, obviously. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't think I'm the biggest fan of this. I think I'm more on the player side than this. So the NFL informed teams of the decision last Friday, said, we are pleased with the decision from the arbiter upholding the parties' collective bargaining agreement and prohibiting the NFLPA from disparaging our clubs and individuals through report cards allegedly based on data methodologies, that it has steadfastly refused to disclose. Remain committed to working in partnership with the NFLPA and independent survey company to develop and administer a significantly valid survey, solicited accurate and reliable player feedback as parties agreed in the CBA. So yeah, this is the thing I'm thinking of. This is when like they come out at the end of the year and they basically give out like, hey, this is what we think of the building. This is what we think of the weight room. This is what we think of this. And my one main thing is like if they're gonna do the Pro Football Focus PFF grades, which are, don't even get me started on those. Christian McCaffrey, the 19th ranked running back in the league. What? Anyway, if they're gonna let PFF do their thing, like you would think that'd be only fair. Like, hey, let it get out there what the players think about some of these buildings. Because I'll be honest, like it's good that there's been a lot of good that's come from this. Especially like if you look at the case of the Bengals. The Bengals got bashed for years and years and years and years, and then finally they're like, you know what? Maybe we should get an indoor practice facility. Maybe we should do some of these things. Now, was it totally on the report cards? Maybe not, but I would say that the report cards definitely had a say in it because, I mean, shit, you saw Pat McAfee, I think when it first came out, like how bad the Bengals facilities really were and everything on these report cards, and especially the Cardinals too. Like, these guys were bashing them in the media, and his show got a lot of attention, and got a lot of people talking about it, and then, hey, what do you know, all of a sudden, these owners have bad publicity about the buildings and everything, which means they might not sell as much or make as much money, and then all of a sudden you don't make as much money, you see them go, whoa, okay, let's make some changes. So that's my one big thing about this is I'm just not a fan of the fact that, like, if you're going to do it on one side, why are you not doing it on the other, especially when it sounds like the way some of these buildings are ran is, like, they need to be called out, or they're just going to, like, keep doing it. Like, I don't know if it's fixed or not, but the fact that the Cardinals have to pay for their own lunch, like, come on, man. You're an NFL billionaire. You make billions of dollars every year, and you're making the players that are playing for your team pay for, like, stuff like that. And then another thing, like, they don't have stuff for the wives and the families, like, for now, don't get me wrong. I understand kind of the other side of the argument is like, why would we do this for them? Why do they need all this extra stuff? Why would we do this? Why would we do that? But at the same time, I'm looking at it for more of like, that's more the business aspect of it. But I'm looking at more of the human aspect. Like, come on, you can't just give the players something for their wives to do on game day so they don't have to deal with the kids. Or it's a little bit easier for them on game day since, your guy's out there risking his body. Like, it's just stuff like that kind of makes me go like, huh? And I'm glad that they called the teams out about it because then like, okay, so that team over there needs to fix their shit, while this team over here is actually running it pretty good. And it kind of also goes to tell, I mean, it kind of shows you, like, when some bad teams are just ran pretty poorly and stuff like that's going on, it kind of correlates. You're kind of like, okay, maybe this is part of the reason why this team's just being ran pretty bad. Yeah, basically the biggest thing, if we're going to do it on one side, why are we not doing it for the other? The Bills are adding John Fox to their staff. Apparently he's going to be a senior assistant coach. Probably going to be pretty good. He'll be the most experienced member of Joe Brady's staff, which is probably why they're bringing him on. Is just be like, hey, kind of be an overseer. We'll check in with. I mean, it's pretty much probably what his role is going to be like. They'll check in and be like, hey, are we doing this right? What should we maybe do here? What would you do if you're in this situation? Probably just a guy to bounce ideas off of and do some other stuff like that. The judge rules that Flores' NFL discrimination lawsuit can go to open court. It's from 2022. It's crazy how long some of this stuff takes in the courts. Or like getting delayed and stuff like that. It's insane. Like he said, sued the league and 3 teams in February 2022 after he's fired from the Dolphins. It was alleged in his original suit that the league was rife with racism regarding hiring practices when it came to black coaches and everything. Like I said, now they're saying the court's decision recognizes that an arbitration forum in which the defendant's own chief executive gets to decide the case would strip employees of their rights under the law. And that was from his attorneys. That was what they said in a statement. So it is long overdue for the NFL to recognize this and finally prove a fair, neutral, and transparent forum for these issues to be addressed. Honestly, though, like I kind of agree with it a little bit. Cause just for the fact, like I agree with it, but I don't think it should be like it's just hard, man. Because it's like just hire the guy who's good for the job. Like you should. One of those things where it's like it's obviously I get it. Some of these other owners are older and they were grown up in different ways. So they see, it's just like, hey, I want to hire, like, and it's the old adage that you hear a lot of people say. It's like, hey, I want to hire the guy I want to hire a guy I'm going to be able to drink with, stuff like that. And that's where, I mean, like I said, I don't agree with any of this, but it's just basically what it comes down to. Because you would think it'd be just so simple to not see color, be like, hey, if he's a good coach, we're just going to pick him. But instead, they made this rule, and this rule kind of has become like, some teams have made a mockery of this rule where they basically look at everybody they really want to hire, and then right at the end they look at like some black assistant coach on the staff or some other black coach that like, or it doesn't have to be black. It could be like any other race where they just like zero chance of hiring them. They're just doing it because we have to do this by obligation. So it's pretty messy, honestly. Like I said, it would be such more simpler. Like, and not every NFL team is doing this, but it has been made very public and clear that there are some teams that operate like this, and it's not cool, but it's just a reality of the situation, which, that's like, I still can't believe this case is going on at the end of the day. Like, 2022. It's basically been a full 4 years at this point, and now it's still, like, probably going, now it looks like it might be going to open court. Like, this dude was, like I said, he's a defensive coordinator at the Vikings now. This stuff's still going on. It's wild. The Jags are apparently going to use Travis Hunter as a full-time cornerback and a part-time wide receiver, which, when you look at stuff like that, which first off, it's like, fantasy owners right away, especially the dynasty owners, I know they're hurting bad right now. Because there's a lot of rumors about Brian Thomas Jr. potentially leaving town, then Travis Hunter could be the wide receiver, but it seems like they're pretty happy with what they have at wide receiver, so they're going to stick with Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, who really came on at the end of the year. And it seems like they're going to stick with them and then everybody else behind them, and then Travis Hunter will come in here and there, but mainly be a cornerback, which... interesting, I will say. Like I said, the biggest thing I'm intrigued by this is the Brian Thomas Jr. factor. Because right away, that my first thought was like, okay, so they're probably keeping Brian Thomas Jr. then. And the second part is like, okay, now you drafted Travis Hunter that really high up to play him on defense? Yet again, if he's a great player, none of this will eventually matter. But all of a sudden... you kind of look at it, and it's going to be the opposite of his rookie year, where he played a lot of offense and played some defense. So this could end up working out well for him, but also doesn't help that right when it looked like he was starting to gain some momentum and start flashing, he got hurt and tore something in his knee, and he's out for the season. So that also probably is scaring a lot of coaches about putting a workload on him and everything. The Raiders are promoting defensive line coach and run game coordinator Rob Leonard to their defensive coordinator. It's Clint Kubiak's first key hire, so. Sounds like a lot. I'm assuming a lot of guys liked him in the building. He's been there, and also he's been there for the last 3 years. He arrived in 2023, and Max Crosby is apparently really, really close to him. So that also tells you right there, partly why they did it, probably, is to try to keep Max Crosby a little bit happy. The Seahawks are now hiring the 49ers tight end coach Brian Fleury as their new offensive coordinator. He's taken over for Clint Kubiak. He has spent most of his coaching career alongside the Niners head coach Kyle Shanahan, so he worked with the Browns in 2014. Shanahan then hired Fleury as defensive quality control coach in 2019 with the 49ers. And then the following year, he became an offensive quality control coach, and then spent 7 seasons with the Niners, and then he managed the tight ends group in 2022. And then he also became the team's run game coordinator prior to the 2025 season. So now he's moving over, and he's becoming OC for Mike McDonald, who that's going to be fascinating because obviously I'm assuming this is a guy that probably, I'll admit, I didn't think he'd become I didn't think there was going to be a name that would be floated out there. So obviously they see something in him, so it's going to be fascinating. A lot of these new young guys are taking over a little bit too. I mean, he's not the youngest, but 47 is not too old when you look across the NFL. The Raiders are hiring Seahawks Andrew Janoko, I think how you say that. Could be butchering that. I apologize if I am, but he's their quarterback. Sorry, I was trying to read what position he was beforehand, but he's their quarterbacks coach, and now he's going to the Raiders to be their offensive coordinator. He'll reunite with first-time head coach Clint Kubiak, so that rounds out their DC and their OC, so that makes some sense there. Tyreek Hill got released from the Dolphins, which, like I said, we were talking about how they were cleaning house a little bit earlier. Saves them how much on the cap? Saves them $22.8 million, which probably the main reason why they do it. And it also sounds like he's just going to be gone to begin with. So it's not clear when he's going to return either. So that's another thing to keep in mind for a team who's going to pick him up. Like I said, they're basically cleaning complete house too. They also released offensive lineman James Daniels, wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Akine, and they also released Bradley Chubb. And obviously, they're going to get rid of Tua Tagovailoa. It's just going to be a matter of, are they going to trade him, or is it going to be a situation where they're able to... I forget if they save money if they release him a little bit later into the offseason or not. So I'm assuming it's one of those things where it's they're waiting to release him when they can save the most money on it because he is going to be a big dead cap hit. But, yeah, there's going to be very interesting to see where Tyreek Hill ends up going. Would it be insane if he ends up going back to the Chiefs? Probably not. Is it likely? I don't know. Now with all this Rashee Rice stuff going on, it makes you wonder. The Chiefs are in need of a wide receiver desperately. I mean, Rashee Rice isn't bad, but he's not. I don't think he's a true number one. Travis Kelce's looking to retire soon, obviously. Xavier Worthy isn't a true number one. They need a real... I mean, I'm not saying Tyreek Hill's number one wide receiver either, but if they don't get a number one wide receiver, it would help to have Tyreek Hill out there at least, because if he's able to stretch the field and do what he does and get back to where he was, then that should be able to help out a lot with the underneath stuff with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. But, yeah, that's a big... I mean, before they even get to the wide receiver, I think Chiefs could really use a running back. I don't think they're going to be in position to, but if they can get Jeremiah Love, that would be nasty. Okay, so 2026 mock draft. Shout out to Daniel Jeremiah. He published this yesterday morning. I want to see who he has the Chiefs taking. And I also want to see, just because it just kind of goes with the conversation, I want to see where he has the Chiefs picking Jeremiah Love at pick 9. I'll admit, when I said that there's no way the Chiefs are going to be able to get him, my first thought immediately was wait, the Chiefs were pretty bad last year if I remember right. So, like I said, if they're able to get Jeremiah Love in the draft, man, they're going to be back, I think, and they might be a problem. But they also need to figure out the wide receiver position as well. The Seahawks are unlikely to tag Kenneth Walker, which makes a lot of sense. I think as the season was going on, it seemed like, all right, Zach Charbonnet's probably going to end up being their guy. Kenneth Walker's probably going to go test the free agent market. I think that's where I was leaning. And then Charbonnet tore his ACL, so you immediately are like, okay, so they're probably going to keep Kenneth Walker, maybe even franchise tag him if it comes down to it. Then they won the Super Bowl and he won Super Bowl MVP. That completely changed everything. Running back franchise tag is projected to be around $14.5 million, while the transition tag is expected to be around $11.7 million. The Seahawks are also prioritizing re-signing other key pending free agents, and they're also trying to extend Jackson Smith and Jigba. But you got to think, especially Super Bowl MVP, Charbonnet hurt. It feels like the holy trifecta of we cannot let Kenneth Walker go. I think they're going to find a deal with him, unless the only way I see him leaving at this point is if the team throws like a massive bag at him and he just can't refuse it. Past that, it just seems like he's going to be a Seattle Seahawk for the next coming years, especially after he played in the Super Bowl. That dude absolutely balled out. Shout out to him. And it seems like a lot of people bash them for splitting the carry. I mean, obviously he's going to want more goal line touches as well, so that's probably going to get worked into his contract. Or if not, it's going to be like a hey, we ain't doing that again. But it seemed like he really did. As the year went on, like really started to come into his own. Especially, he stayed healthy for the majority of the year, which is usually not what he does. So maybe splitting the carries did work out a little bit. Robert Woods is retiring. He signed a 1-year day with the contract. He did that, but he signed a 1-day contract with the Rams. 13-year career. Overall, he spent it with 5 teams. He finished his career with 367 catches, 4,626 yards, and 23 touchdowns during his 5 seasons with the Rams. Yeah, shout out to Robert Woods. Pretty good career, and I'm pretty sure he won a Super Bowl with them. So the Patriots are officially promoting Zach Curry to defensive coordinator. It makes sense, especially because we talked about it because of maybe if Terrell Williams comes back, or Terrell Williams, whichever one. T. Willie, if he was coming back, you were going to wonder what's going to happen there, but it sounds like they put him up into a higher role and with the staff and everything, so Zach Curry gets to keep his job. And he did a pretty good job for getting kind of just thrown in there because of the wildness of what happened with Williams' health. Rich Bisaccia is stepping down as the Packers special teams coordinator. Seems like a lot of fans were really, really happy about that, especially Packers fans. Seems like they're really, really happy about that, so might be a good move for the Packers. Rashee Rice has another civil lawsuit against him. That's another reason I brought the Tyreek Hill thing as well. It's apparently from his ex-girlfriend who, an 18-month span from 2023 to 2025. She said she's pregnant during many of these alleged assaults as well. She's seeking more than $1 million. She alleged that Rice strangled her in December 2023 and then exhibited a history of abusive behavior through the relationship, both Texas and Missouri, until 2025. We're just going to have to see what comes more of that. That's what's going on. I'm assuming Rashee Rice is obviously going to deny that. And then there's another wild offseason story. We're going to have to see what happens with them. Mike Evans is going to test free agency, it seems like. It's wild. You got to think, especially he's been with the Bucs for forever. Hopefully, I mean, if he goes to Kansas City, that would be awesome for him. He signed a 2-year, $41 million deal in 2024. He spent his entire 12-year career with the Bucs at this point. It seems like the biggest thing that I heard was, and this was just from listening to like podcasts and everything. I think the big worry of everyone is just like the hamstring is like after the injury, he's just not the same guy. So maybe that's why the Bucs are a little bit more okay moving on with him. That's what I just heard. I have zero clue if that's true or not. You would think that he would be a guy that'd be okay with spending his whole. He especially won a Super Bowl at this point with the Bucs. So unless he's chasing more titles with other teams or anything, you got to think like legacy-wise, being a one-team guy, really, really. So that doesn't happen very much anymore nowadays. You would think that he'd want to do that potentially, but I'm not in Mike Evans' head, so I don't know. But he is going to test the free agency. You would think that at the Chiefs, I don't know, because of the injury history, maybe not, but he would make a very, very interesting Chief all of a sudden. But there's a lot of teams, I'm sure, that would love to have Mike Evans on their team. 49ers are going to host a regular season game in Mexico City next season. Date and opponent are yet to be announced, but the game will be played in the renovated Azteca Stadium, which is recently renamed Barnote. Because of the 49ers and how much of a Hispanic, I think they do have a decently big Hispanic following. Makes sense, honestly. Not shocking that they'll go there. Especially not shocking at all that they're the home team for that. The Seattle Seahawks are for sale, so we talked about that a few weeks ago where I'm like, I don't know if they're actually for sale or not at this point. Sounds like they're actually going to begin it. They're beginning the process, and they stated on Wednesday that it has begun. The process of selling the team, which is coming off its second Super Bowl victory in franchise history. Adam Schefter, a couple weeks ago, talked about like the soft number being $7 billion, but could even get up to $10 billion to buy the Seahawks. You would think that, especially because they're coming off a Super Bowl, they got a young coach, they got it sounds like a lot of the team's pretty much coming back. They got a lot of guys under contract. You would think that this is a chance where it's gonna go for a pretty penny. So I would assume $7 billion at the minimum. Sounds like it could even get up to $10 billion, which would just be absolutely insane. Yeah. These teams are expensive, man. These teams go for a shit ton of money. Some big news when it comes to the Colts. 3 things I want to bring up. Sounds like the Colts are working on extending Daniel Jones, and that's probably going to come within, I don't want to say anytime soon, actually, but sounds like they're basically working on extending Daniel Jones, and that's going to be the next thing that's upcoming. Michael Pittman potentially sounds like he could be a cap casualty, especially if they're trying to extend Alex Pierce. I hope that's not the case. Michael Pittman's been one of the most steady people for the Colts, but now that they have Alex Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, they've had Alex Pierce, but now that he emerged a little bit and had a pretty big season, they brought in Tyler Warren, who could potentially take over that role. He makes a lot of money, so that's the one fear, but that's something. And then the biggest kind of shocking news is because they're signing Daniel Jones, sounds like Anthony Richardson's going to ask for a trade. If not, the Colts are going to work to try to get him traded, which just is not the best. I don't know if that's going to... All 3 of these, I have no idea if they're going to happen or not. The Daniel Jones one, I think, is the most likely one. Obviously, that's going to happen. I do think they want to keep him, but when it comes to the Michael Pittman, not too sure about that one. I assume they're going to try to get Alec Pierce back, especially that's why they're working on signing Daniel Jones. And then I really don't know how to feel about this Anthony Richardson one. It's just so frustrating because the guy had a chance to actually play and potentially have a chance to be a starter and earn the team back this year, but he had a freak injury happen to him and he just missed time. And that's just, I think that's the most frustrating part for me. It's just like, he has such bad luck with injuries, man. This guy, he's already 3-4 years in the NFL. He's barely got any chance to play or develop or anything. And I was excited for the guy. I really had a lot of hope. I think that's the first jersey I've ever bought on draft night, where it's like, not looking good right now. I'll say that, but it's just disappointing. It sucks because as a Colts fan, like I was excited. He had that one throw against the Houston Texans. I think about it all the time still, where it's just like that's in there. It's just could we get all some of the other stuff? And he had flashes and everything, but like I said, just the injuries were a lot. It was just really, really frustrating. It just sucks. Guy had so much talent and everything, and now it seems like he could potentially leave without ever really getting a chance to start, whether that was fully his fault, fully the Colts' fault. I don't know. It just sucks, too, because I'm really frustrated with the general manager, part of the Colts as well, but then you think about it, Grigson was really, really bad. And, like, Ballard isn't as bad as Grigson, but it's like, It's tough, man. Colts problems. Gotta love it. And then the final thing we'll talk about today, the Chiefs are reworking Mahomes' contract to free up cap space. They converted $54.5 million of Mahomes' 2026 salary to a signing bonus, creating $43.5 million in cap room. According to Jason Fitzgerald, the move drops his cap number from $78 million to $34 million. The Chiefs entered the offseason with a salary cap crunch and now sit roughly $11 million over the cap. That's a lot of money moving around, man. I mean, I guess it helps when he signs a 10-year deal so they can kind of do a lot of this stuff. And yeah, seems like they're pretty much moving money around to probably. I mean, obviously, it seems like they're probably going to try to sign somebody or extend some people, but yeah, with the Chiefs needing like some offensive line help, wide receiver help, and for sure running back help. Man, if they get Jeremiah Love, man, he could be nasty. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for the support. Really do appreciate it. That's probably going to do it for today. I'm not going to lie to you. Next week, we might do one episode. We might do 2. I'm going to watch how the news goes. And if a decent amount of news comes in, I'll split it up in 2. If not, I'm kind of leaning towards next week being the last week of one episode where we'll go over, like I said, NFL news. And then we'll talk a little bit about how the futures went and overall just how I thought the betting year went as in totality. And then that's going to do it. The second we hit March, we're back to 2 episodes a week from here on out until I take probably the next break in like June, July, when it's like, or I guess probably, I might even do it sooner. I might do it like May and then June, because June, July is usually when we do that's usually when we do the futures, start doing that stuff. So I do have one more like week or 2 break where I'm basically going to do 1 episode a week for those 2 weeks. Like that's coming at some point way, way down the line, like I said, May, June, but not 100% sure for next week. It's just because it's really, really slow right now, but it's going to start picking up a little bit with the combine and draft season and everything. And yeah, so we'll just see. You'll maybe see me on Tuesday. If not, for sure, I'll do 1 episode on Wednesday. And then after that, the following week, we're back to 2 episodes a week. just floating through the offseason, man. We got 204 days. March Madness is upcoming, so we'll have that to watch and enjoy. Golf's starting to happen. We got that. WNBA is going to be tipping off here soon. NBA is starting to reach its playoffs. College basketball, like I said, only have 6 games left in the regular season, so that March Madness. About here, man. But like I said, thank y'all for watching. I'll see everyone back in this feed next week. Like I said, either Tuesday or Wednesday. Not 100% sure yet, but hope everyone has a good weekend. I'll see y'all then.